Uh,
Wow.
all right, man. We got Primo in the room.
Ooh.
What's up, Primo?
What it do?
We got Mr. Daryl Cherry, owner and executive producer of Arcadia Studios. I think he's actually in a session right now, but he's still joining in so he can support. And then the man of the hour, Christian Turner, Mr.
Oh,
Zero to
me.
17,000. Woo! So
No
tell us what you're going to
marketing.
be teaching the people that are and are not here in this training.
No, I'm just gonna be sharing a little bit about my story, how I was able to, obtain the fan base that I have now, and more specifically the methods that I used to get there. So it's gonna be about niche marketing and feature marketing. So up to date, admittedly, I am not social media savvy, so I'm not the one for the lights, camera, action. I like to post my music and keep it on the go. So a lot of my fan base and my streams and my support has come from working with other artists and then tapping into these highly specific niche communities. So that's what we're going to go over today.
Sweet. Sounds good, man. Well, I don't want to waste anybody's time. I'm sure we'll have a couple people maybe hop in late. But we want to make these. We know people are working. People are trying to make music. Sometimes they're working more than one job. Sometimes they're in school. So we want to keep it as quick as possible and just pack a bunch of value into as short of amount of time as we can. So I'm not going to hold you up. I think you have screen share access and you can dive in whenever you're ready. I might pause you sometimes and ask you some questions.
You're good.
And Primo,
You get the
if you want to pause him, since it's just us right now, if you want to pause him and ask him some questions too, we can.
Right.
We'll dig in, man.
Yep. Cool. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and take over. Got the PowerPoint pulled up, so let me go ahead and share my screen, and then let me know if you guys can see that over to slide deck.
Yep, I see it.
Yep.
Okay. Is that showing up good for you guys?
Yeah, we good.
Yep.
Okay. Cool. So yeah, it's not a crazy fancy presentation, but I mean, it's going to be packed full of some good information. So be sure to take notes because I'm going to be doing a lot of talking. I don't like to read bullet point after bullet point and do death by PowerPoint for everyone. So I'm just going to be talking mostly, a couple visuals in here for you guys as well. But yep, so feature and niche marketing and a little bit of my story and how I've utilized both of these methods for my own music and artistry. So to start off, we'll do feature marketing, which I'm sure by the name, some of you guys are probably already familiar with or already doing and don't even know that you're doing it, right? So the question is, what is feature marketing? So it is a strategy for music artists where two or more artists work together to create and promote music. And with that, you're going to leverage each other's fan bases, skills, and the brand. So the goal with feature marketing is to increase visibility for both parties, not just one, and attract new listeners and benefit from that shared promotion effort. So with that, I'm going to dive in just a little bit. I have a couple notes, so if you see me looking down, I'm just reading what I prepared for you guys. So, like I said, feature marketing, it is about leveraging collaboration to expand your reach as an artist. So in the music industry specifically, a feature refers to a guest or an artist who contributes to a song or an album or a track, and they're providing vocals or instrumentation that just adds value to that track. It's incredibly popular across different genres. So I'm sure a lot of us have seen now, like the whole country pop crossover. You got the rappers and the country artists together just making banging songs, and everybody loves it, right?
Shabuzi.
Yeah, there you go. So yeah, incredibly popular and growing an artist fan base and tapping into the featured artist fan base as well. So when you do this strategically, a feature can expose your music to an entirely new group of fans that have never even heard of you before, right? And that's going to increase your streams, your social media followers, and just your visibility as an artist. A couple things with that, I wanted to add, choosing the right artist for a feature is crucial. So especially in the Arcadia community, a lot of us are smaller artists. I know a lot of us have had some big successes, but for the most part, we're still independent. We're still growing. We're still, bouncing ideas off of each other, which is great. And something you want to keep in mind is, you want to collaborate with artists who, align with your brand and your sound, but also bring something unique to the table. And I have a couple, stories personally that I'll share with you here in just a little while. So yeah, if you're an emerging artist, collaborating with someone more established can, automatically give you that instant credibility and that visibility, especially if their fan base overlaps with your target market. Features don't always have to be with big name artists, right? You don't have to go drop $3,000 or, $2,000 an hour for a famous person to come in. Like, what is it? J. Cole's $2,000 an hour, 2,000 per word or something like that. sometimes you don't even have to spend any money, right? You can just utilize the connections and, the friendships that you already make. Because I mean, a lot of us here at Arcadia, even, we know each other, and most of our features have come from, each other, right? So, when it comes to the actual marketing of these features, something you want to keep in mind is build that excitement with teasers and behind the scenes content, which I know a lot of you do already. Coordinated social media campaigns so that both artists' audiences are engaged before the track even drops, right? And let's see some of the benefits of this feature marketing strategy.
I want to pause real quick.
Yeah.
Because we talked about what feature an effective feature strategy is, and I love that you said you don't have to work with a big name artist.
Mm-hmm.
Because something that's become very popular over the last few years, and what the feature strategy we're talking about today is not, it's going and purchasing a pre-recorded verse from an artist that's selling that verse for like $50, $500, $200. I've seen them go for like $500. I've seen them go for $50, and it's like a big name artist. It'll be like, get this verse from Roddy Ricch or Blueface.
Blueface, $30.
Yeah, whoever it is, man. And I don't think people understand that there's like thousands of artists that purchase that exact verse and now have it on their song.
Yep.
And when you purchase that, it's not going to go on that artist's pages a majority of the time. A majority of the time, it is not going to actually end up on that artist's page for their fan base to actually find you. You are literally just posting your song with no audience and typing the name Blueface or whatever artist it is into the title of your song, and still nobody's really going to see that. You're not really getting exposure to them. And so that can usually be a ripoff, because people just do that to like pat themselves on the back and show their friends and be like, "Oh man, I got a verse with I got a verse with, insert artist name." But that's not what we are talking about. Do not purchase those. Don't do it.
Yeah, no, this is 100% like the connections that you already have. And I'm not saying don't reach out to anyone. I mean, if you can land a feature with a big name artist, great. That's awesome. I'll see you on stage. But, like I mentioned before, a lot of us, we are up and coming artists. We're independent artists. And we work together a lot. So utilize that to your advantage, right? And Sean, did you have anything else before I go to the benefits?
No. Are you going to talk about like how to network and find those feature artists and like how to punch up and go slightly above your audience, or should we dig in on that now?
No, you can dig in on that. I didn't really prepare anything about the like you said, finding those features. My whole mindset with it. I mean, and part of this is, my story as well. It's all been local. It's been artists that, I've met at the studio, or that I've walked in to start a session and they're ending off theirs. We get to talk and they're like, "Oh, hey, we should definitely cook something up together." So, that's been my main strategy. But I mean, by all means, definitely go into that.
Yeah, I think a lot of people forget that even if you have the same amount of followers as someone else, or even if they have less followers than you, if you have 3,000 and they have 1,000, but their 1,000 followers are not exposed to you as an artist, that's 1,000 new people that you're going to be put in front of.
Yep.
So doing this feature strategy, like you said, not only does it not have to be a big name, it doesn't have to be someone with a big following either. It can be someone that has the same following as you, even less of a following, but it will expose you to a brand new audience and add those followers to you as well. Or if you can slightly punch up, like 25% in the following, maybe you have 5,000 followers, reach out to somebody that has 7,500, reach out to somebody that has 10K. And then as you grow, keep going more and more and more and more. Now, like Chris said, it's not bad to shoot for the stars. It's not bad to DM someone that's got like 20, 50, 100,000. However, you have to realize that those artists are probably doing this full time, or they're probably going to try and charge you for a feature. So just be prepared for that. If you think it's going to be useful, we're not saying that you shouldn't spend money at all on those genuine features. If there's an artist that reaches out to you that has, or you reach out to them and they respond and they've got 20,000, 50,000 followers and they want $200 for a feature or $1,000 for a feature, whatever it is. If you truly believe that's going to be beneficial for you, that's fine. However, you don't have to do that. If you're willing to put the work in to not just market digitally, and I think that's where everybody gets stuck, is they think marketing is digital. If you could get out there and network, guys, a really smart idea, right, would be literally go to those of you that record at Arcadia Studios, or if you're national and you're not near us locally, if you just go to any studio near you, like in your local area, Google the studios in your local area, go to their social media, and see the artists that are following their social media. And then you can just DM those artists. Right? That would be
their
a
tagged
great
photos too. I mean,
exactly,
I'm one of
exactly.
those people. Anytime I post something, I tag the studio. So the studio's gonna have hundreds of just people at your disposal that you can find in an instant.
Exactly. So you can go through and actually put a little effort into reaching out to artists that are following and interacting with those studios, because you know they're serious about their music. And see somebody whose art you like or that you want to collaborate with, you can reach out to them. And typically those kinds of people are not going to charge for a feature. That's going to be a long-term relationship that you can build. And if you do that with someone in your local area that you are networking with, and Chris, I'm sure you're going to talk about this because of who you were able to get a feature with. The really cool thing is, rather than you reaching out to somebody on the other side of the country you're not connected to at all that has like 100,000 followers, if it's someone in your local area, they might still be willing to work with you for free and have a huge following because it's easier for you to connect genuinely. When you're living in the same area, coming up in the same community or network, and you're working together in like a local music economy. So in terms of how to find these types of features, that's what I would say to do. You know, put the effort in, look at those studios around you, and DM artists on their following that you want to work with.
That was good. Preach. It was really good. Yeah, but I mean, honestly, that kind of leads right into, you know, the benefits of this feature marketing strategy as well. As Sean just said, you know, collaborating with other artists will help you tap into their fan base. So, you know, you have 5,000 followers or subscribers or listeners, they have 7,500, right? That's 2,500 more than you had just by doing that feature strategy. Definitely also, like Sean said, building those genuine relationships, that's going to take you, you know, miles ahead. There's a few artists that I've worked with just at Arcadia, for example, and whether I've done one song with them or I've done 5, I know Sean, you and I have a couple songs together. I still keep up with those guys like almost on a monthly basis, right? Regardless of where life has taken us, or, you know, me, for example, I know Primo, we were talking earlier, we both moved away, but I'm sure you still keep up with those people that you worked with at the studio as well, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah, so another thing, you have that cross-genre appeal, so work with artists from different genres to attract more diverse audiences and create those unique sounds. And I'm going to go into this a little bit, Sean, with who I featured with and how I was able to kind of tap into their fan base. I will tell you guys the song that was able to help kind of boost me up, it's more of a country pop, country trap beat, but I utilized, you know, some of my unique perspectives in music, and I was able to do a verse in Spanish. So I combined that Latin feel with that, you know, neo pop or pop country sound too. And it took off. And still to this day, you know, we're averaging about 7,000 streams a week just on that one song. And I'll show that with you guys here in just a second. Again, shared promotion. So you're both going to promote the collaboration, doubling that exposure on social media. Your followers see it, their followers see it, your followers merge, and then it's just this whole beautiful thing, right? Mutual credibility, and that goes back to the, you know, those genuine connections from these features or these artists that you're working with. So yes, working with a well-known artist will increase your credibility and enhance your brand, but also, you know, getting your face out there, getting, you know, well-known at your local studio or your community, you're going to continue to grow, and that's just going to be organic, right? And just the creative growth behind it. So working together is always going to spark new ideas and help you grow as an artist. And Sean, feel free to come in on this. But every time you and I have recorded a song together, we have a strategy where we won't even tell the other person what we're doing. We'll give each other a timestamp and a theme, and then we just go in there and we be ourselves, right? And that's how we've created some of our most popular songs to date. And my cat's running around. Sorry, if you hear him in the background.
Yeah, I think that's definitely good to figure out, like how, because everybody's going to work differently, you know, just willing to be flexible when you're working with different people. But I want to ask you a question, Chris, before you keep diving in.
Yeah.
What percentage of this strategy would you attribute to your work ethic and showing up consistently, because just like I did, you know, when I was recording for a long time, you did the same thing where you were driving 2 hours to the studio, spending weeks out of time, hundreds on gas, studio time, right? Like you were putting effort and money in. And I understand not every artist has the budget to do those things, but there are always things that we can do, things that we can put effort into to get ourselves in the right circles or to at least get ourselves on the right track. So what percentage of this strategy, because somebody might say, oh, it was just luck that you were able to do this. What percentage would you attribute to your work ethic versus luck?
That's a hard one, honestly, because I mean, like you said, all the hours that I've spent in the studio, all the hundreds of dollars that I've spent on beats or, you know, just the production of the song, the hours I spent writing, all it took was that one song, right? I will give a huge shout out to the artists that I actually worked with, because I mean, as I said earlier, admittedly, I'm not a social media guy, and I know I need to be. I know that's a vital part of, you know, marketing your music, but we're not talking about that on this call. The artists that I work with actually did the majority of, you know, the marketing of this song. So the TikToks, the Instagrams, the local outreach. And I will say, you know, it was a little easier because this artist lived, you know, in the Myrtle Beach area at the time, and I didn't live there. So it wasn't as easy for me to, you know, be there physically as much as I'd like to. But I don't even know what percentage I would give to that, you know?
To me, watching your growth process, because I was there when you first started, right? And so I think if you weren't showing up consistently, you never would have met that person. You wouldn't have bumped shoulders, you know? And so even though there might be these strokes of luck for people, I think that your ability to find those strokes of luck ultimately comes down to your work ethic and how consistent you can show up.
That is true.
And that's why people and artists say it all the time. You know, people think you're an overnight success because they don't see the 10 years or the 5 years or whatever you put in behind the scenes where nothing was happening, but you kept
exactly.
So,
and I mean,
this isn't like, it's not a luck thing, you know, where it's just like, no matter how hard you work or how little you work, it's just going to randomly happen. Your ability to make this happen ultimately boils down to you simply, like we talked about earlier, reaching out to people, you know, getting out there, bumping shoulders with the right people. You're never going to do that. Like nobody, the odds that you're just going to wake up one day and have somebody message you and want to do this are slim to none. The odds that you just go viral, you know, and have your inbox filled are slim to none. The odds that you send 5 messages and everybody's like, oh yeah, I would love to work with you, are also slim to none. You know, you got to be willing to put that work in and constantly show up. So I would attribute a majority of it to your work ethic and your consistency.
I appreciate that. And, you know, going back to what you just said, I will say that the majority of features have been me reaching out to the other artists, right? Now, of course, there have been a couple times where, you know, an artist has reached out to me. And just recently, Sean, I know you saw it was the America's Next Top Hitmaker competition. With that, a few artists actually did reach out to me on my social media. I posted my links on there. I was in it. I made it to the quarterfinals, which was pretty cool. And there was actually an artist out in California who had a pretty big following. And, you know, he found my profile. He liked, you know, my style. And he told me to hit him up. He was like, hey, you know, we should definitely cook something up after this. But so yeah, I mean, you got to put in that work. You got to build those relationships, and trust me, it'll take you far.
And this is the last thing I'll say before you move on, because I know we need to skate through the rest of it. I'll try to shut up. Right?
You're good.
This is a very scalable model because of what you just said. The more you do this and the more streams you start to get for artists underneath of you as you're growing, you start to become the person they want to feature with.
Yeah.
And so then people start messaging you,
like
you just said, as you're still getting yourself out there, you're still growing, the features start coming to you, and all of those people are still new audiences for you to be exposed to. So now while you're actually putting effort into continuing to punch up, you know, I went from 0 to 17,000 streams a month. I want to work with an artist that, you know, has a little bit more than me. I'm going to keep putting effort into that. Well, while you're doing that, now you have these other smaller artists reaching out to you. And even though it's like 1,000 followers here, 3,000 here, 5,000 here, all of
5,000 more than you had.
Exactly. Those are people coming to you on autopilot. And what do you have to do? All you have to do is record a verse and send it to them on their song. Exactly. So this is a very scalable model. You know, it's like when ads are doing, it's like a form of influencer marketing without you having to pay to access the audience.
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. And I'll give you guys a quick example too. And this is not the artist that I'm about to talk about and give a huge shout out to. I don't know if how many of you guys have actually listened to my music or how many of you have actually met me in the studio before. There was a newer artist recently by the name of Tori Bella, and I kind of mentored her. I helped her record her first song, took her to her first studio session. She featured on one of my songs, and then she wrote a song that I featured on, right? Um, Even as being a brand new artist, never having dropped music ever in her life before, after I helped her put that song out that I featured on with her, I want to say within that first week, she already had 300 listeners. And that was strictly just friends, family, friends at college, friends from school, friends from high school. And because I was on that song, those 300 people that I had never heard of or never knew my name automatically knew me and were listening to my music as well. Right. So it doesn't even have to be, an established artist, like you said. It can be someone that just has those connections or has that support base behind them, which you could use the strategy for.
Yeah.
So,
And the last thing before you move on, since
mhm.
Primo's on the call, right? I have not been like music marketing. My music hasn't been the main thing. My main thing is
Mhm.
business, right? But I still like
Yep.
to create. I still like to work with people. I'm gonna be doing a challenge soon though, where I'm gonna start using these things for myself and rewarding people that are able to beat my growth every single month inside of the school community. We'll give away cash
Nice.
prizes and student services and gear and stuff like that.
Yeah.
However, a similar story is actually with Primo. Primo and I
Yeah.
did a few songs together, right? And then I went to hang out with Primo one time, and
Mhm.
I like went into his apartment or wherever they were living, and there were like 20, 30 people there I had never met before, and they like all knew who I was. And I'm
Yeah.
like, yo, what the heck? I didn't know any of these
Yeah,
people, right? So shout out to Primo also because we've had some fun tracks and done some fun stuff
Absolutely.
together. And he's
yeah,
got a great
appreciate it.
community around him as well.
Yeah. Yeah, Primo, you and I are next. We gotta cook something up when we're both down there.
Hey, I'm here. I'm ready. But I say I'm only an hour and a half, so
There
I'm
you go.
good.
I'll be back down there soon. Don't worry.
Yes, sir.
But yeah, so the artist is Bubba Graham, and I'm sure a lot of you at the studio know who Bubba Graham is, or you've met him, or you've worked with him before. And that song was Outlaw. So I'll give you just a quick little, history behind that song. But there was no special formula. I didn't pay a dime. I didn't run ads. I didn't even post content for this song. I think I reposted the song on my story a couple times, and that was it. Bubba was really the driving force behind, the success of this song specifically, and I believe to date that is his second most popular song ever on Spotify. Um, but again, it didn't happen overnight. So Bubba and I met a couple times at the studio. When I was going a lot more regularly, I listened to some of his stuff. He was in the studio finishing up one time, and DC, he played one of my songs. And Bubba looked at me. He was like, "Hey, man, you know what we got to do?" And I was like, "Let's do it." So you know, we recorded Outlaw, I believe, a couple weeks later. And, for probably the first year, it wasn't really, logging any sort of huge number, It definitely did take that work. So, like I said, I totally give 100% credit for the marketing, the actual pushing the social media content to Bubba, because, I mean, that's his lane. He's a great entertainer, he's a great influencer. But because of what he's doing, I am reaping the benefits in a sense. I'm kind of riding that wave. So I have a couple of pictures for you guys here in the next slide. But before Outlaw really had that success, I wasn't pushing any sort of numbers either. But these are actually a couple screenshots as of this month. So I did drop down from 17, but like I said, to my own fault, not marketing as I should be. But within the past 28 days, and this is, like I said, taken at the very beginning of this month, end of August, I had 11,552 listeners, right? And 8,000 of those were brand new listeners. And what did I do? I simply existed on a track with Bubba Graham, right? 7,000 of those listeners were already in my active audience. And then the 376 super listeners. And I'm sure you guys know, as artists with Spotify, you have your listeners and then you have your followers. So I'm still gaining followers almost every week, whether my listening, database is fluctuating or not. I'd probably say 2 or 3 a week that are just finding me through Bubba's music. And then naturally I see all of my other songs like, okay, these are picking up streams. I have a song, it was featured with Bisky Christ. He's actually another Arcadia artist. And, I'm looking, this was after Outlaw started blowing up, and out of the blue, we have a song called Some Strings Attached. It had like 2,000 streams overnight. And I was like, whoa, where did this come from? But it was just people finding my music and liking it because of, the feature that I have with Bubba Graham. So yeah, feature marketing is definitely something that we as, up and coming artists can leverage. We can use that to our advantage. And then also we can just have fun with it, right? Like me personally, I love trying out new things. I mean, I feel like every other project I have is a different genre. I like being creative, and I love being creative with people. I love to see what other people bring to the table. So is there any questions about the feature marketing? I know we're going to kind of breeze through this second half of this, but yeah, so that's my feature marketing story. You guys got anything else?
Primo, you got anything?
I said, nah, you're doing good right now. I like
appreciate
everything.
it, man.
I like everything you're saying.
I appreciate it.
I'll attack one thing before we move on to your second strategy.
Okay.
And that is also that with some artists, it's going to be more of an organic relationship, like a legitimate friendship. And with other artists, it's going to be all about the business.
Yeah.
And you got to be okay with that.
Yeah.
You got to recognize one for the other. And so like with you and Bubba, it was something that organically happened.
Yeah.
100%. It wasn't like you never want to try to use people.
No, absolutely
is my point, right? And that's I want to make sure we point that out is you don't want to try and like be fake to get views because that's going to damage your relationships and your reputation in the future. And that's
it truly is a small world out there, guys.
Yeah, that's one thing a lot of artists don't really pay attention to is your reputation. Because as a music artist, you are the brand, and your reputation and your brand become almost inseparable as a music artist. So that's very important to maintain the integrity of and keep that intact. And so, when you say like I'm riding on the coattails of it or whatever, and Bubba was on this call, he'd probably be like, "Yeah, I got to get paid," But no, Bubba's a great guy, and that happened organically. It wasn't because you tried to manipulate the situation and go in there and use another artist, right? It was because that relationship developed organically because he liked your music, you liked his music, you're involved in the same community, you had a like-minded, mindset.
Exactly.
Same thing with Bisky, right? So. There are also going to be times with other artists, though, where it just makes sense for you two to work together, and you don't have to talk to each other or be best friends all the time. Like you keep up with each other, but you probably don't talk to those artists all the time.
Yep.
So I just want to point that out too. Don't be a scumbag, basically. As an artist. Don't try to use people. Make sure if it's business, and that's cool. But if the relationship happens naturally and organically, that's cool too. Just don't be a scumbag.
Yep. Exactly. I actually had a call with Bubba a couple weeks ago, and as much as I'd like to do another song with him simply just because of his vocals, I didn't want him to get the message either that, oh, Bubba's blowing up, let me try to get another song. So we talked for a little while, and I actually just asked him about his marketing strategy. Like, how are you blowing up overnight on TikTok, it seems. Told him I was proud of him, obviously. And I told him, I was like, dude, I'm jealous. And he's like, hey, man, like, we got a song together. So
because he's a content machine, man.
It's good to keep those relationships too. So like Sean said, don't be a scumbag, but if it's business, it's business. But cool. So I'll move on to the second part of this. It's set up exactly the same. It's just a different side. So let's see. Niche marketing. Okay, so this is another one of those things. This is something that I have used personally. And honestly, before I even knew that there was a term for niche marketing, I did this and I was able to see almost instant organic success, right? And this isn't going to be some, artists hate them because of this one trick. But I mean, quite honestly, that's kind of how it happened. And Sean, you were actually there, so feel free to chime in because you're a big part of this story as well. So what is niche marketing? So it focuses on targeting a specific and well-defined audience or genre. So rather than trying to, appeal to the masses or that broad mainstream crowd, it's about finding those loyal group of fans who connect with you as an artist. And that could be because of your style, because of your message, because of your identity, because of the genre. Maybe you've invented your own genre and there's a small group of people that, love that, or it's just not something that you hear on the radio every day. You're narrowing that focus and you're building those stronger connections with your fans, and you're really standing out inside of the industry. So going into it a little deeper, like I said, it's all about identifying that specific targeted audience, right? For music artists, like I said, that can mean a particular genre, a style, a demographic that resonates with a specific audience rather than appealing to the masses. It allows artists to carve out a space, carve out, that niche where they can, build that loyal fan base. And it's highly effective because independent artists, like some of us who might not have those resources to do, running ads or paying for a whole bunch of, whatever, going to the studio every other week. Where was I? I lost my spot in my notes. Sorry. Okay. And, having those resources to compete with mainstream stream acts, it can offer something unique to your audience. Going back to the genre example that I gave. So lo-fi hip hop or alternative folk, or even, something that's experimental, something that you created yourself. And Sean, I'm sure you remember this because I was at your house when this happened. Do you remember the rapper that he was whistling in his raps? Everybody was like, everybody's like, what is this? But he blew up overnight, right?
Yeah.
That could be a good example. He literally created his own genre and just overnight gained that following, right? But yeah, by focusing on a niche, you're not just selling your music, you are creating an experience and a culture and a true connection with a group of people that feel like what you're doing is truly made for them. It's a lot more personable than just, hearing something on the radio, like, oh, The Weeknd comes on, and it's like everybody in the whole country's heard that, right? You're building that personal relationship with your audience, whether you've met them in person or not, whether they know you or whether they're finding you on YouTube and they're like, oh my goodness, this guy gets me. This was made for me, right? Successful niche marketing, it's going to involve, a good understanding of your audience's needs, their value, and how your music can fit into their lives or how it can directly correlate to what they might have going on in their lives. One key aspect, and I'll get into this a little deeper when I give, my story with niche marketing, but it's knowing where your audience spends their time, right? So if your primary audience spends their time on something like Bandcamp or Reddit, for example, or Discord, these are websites that are meant for, those niche communities. Reddit is quite literally a niche website. You can go in, you can type in anything and you can find a group for it of people with similar interests or similar ideas as you. Then those are the spaces that you should focus on prioritizing your music promotion and engagement if you're going to do, a niche marketing method. Similarly, you can collaborate with influencers, bloggers, curators, or other people that are also inside of that niche, because it's not going to be as hard to break into. And Sean, I believe you said there's not going to be as many gatekeepers inside of a niche community. They tend to be a lot more supportive because, like I said, it's a small community of people and, they're really resonating with what you're doing. It also requires artists to be authentic, right? And so I'll get into this here in just a second with, the project that Sean and I did. But trying to force a connection with a niche that you're not passionate about, they're gonna know, right? You can't BS your way into a community. You can't say, oh, well, these guys would probably be easy to break into. I mean, if you can do it, cool, whatever. But niche marketing is really about something that, is specific to you and specific to that community. Something, like I said, again, that they can resonate with. When it's done right, niche marketing allows for organic growth, and some of your fans will become your strongest promoters even, right? And I even have fans from, the song that I'm about to talk about that still message me personally to this day asking about the status of the type of music that I use the niche marketing strategy for. Also with that, word's going to spread around fast in that community, right? If you're the first of your kind to do something in a niche community, the people are going to find out about you super quick. Best part, you don't have to spend a dime, right? So the benefits of niche marketing, like I mentioned, are kind of touched on. There's less competition. So in a niche market, there's going to be fewer artists trying to appeal to that same audience, and it's going to make it that much easier for you guys to stand out. Also touched on this, but you're going to have a stronger fan loyalty. So they tend to be more loyal and dedicated, and they're often going to support you guys through purchases, streaming, and then just straight up word of mouth promotion. They're more likely to repost your stories and your reels on social media, more likely to stream your songs because it speaks to them on that personal level, and going into deeper connection, like I just said, you can form these personal connections with your fans who have those same interests as you. And that will create, in a sense, like a psychological, emotional bond with you. You do want to have your focused marketing efforts. So with a defined audience, marketing efforts are more targeted and efficient, leading to higher engagement with less wasted effort. You're going to have your higher value per fan. So and I kind of touched on this earlier, they're probably going to be more willing to pay for more specialized content. So, let's say you have your Patreon, and I know, Sean, you kind of touched on this on the launch of, the Independence Project. You get those 500 loyal fans, all of them are paying, $5-10 a month. There goes your full-time salary, all because, you found this one group of people that really leaned into what you're doing, and they truly support you because of, the way that you tapped in with them, or the way that you spoke to them or resonated with them. And again, like I said, they're often going to spread the word naturally and help artists grow without relying heavily on mainstream channels. So I will give a couple examples. And how are we on time? Okay, I've got a little while. So my story, again, I did not pay a dime. I did not run ads. I did not post content, in a sense, and I didn't even have to pitch to playlists. So the song that I'm speaking of is called Espereble, and I'll go into a little history for those of you that don't know. I am a nerd, right? Sean, you can probably attest to this. I am a huge nerd, and I am a linguistic nerd. So
Dude speaks about 7.5 languages.
yeah. I cannot do math and science to save my life, but I have always been interested in learning languages. So ever since I was about 12 years old, I would spend my free time learning languages. So to this day, proficiently, I speak English. Obviously, I've been talking to you guys the whole time. I did a couple years of German. I minored in Russian in college, and I speak a language called Esperanto. I also speak Spanish too, but it's conditional. It depends on who I'm around, right? Grew up in Florida, so naturally I just kind of picked it up. But Esperanto, it's, without nerding out on you guys too much, I don't want to keep you guys here for 3 days. It's a constructed language, in a sense, in the most simplest of terms. It was an engineered language. It was created by this guy, or this doctor in Poland, back in the early, 1800s. He lived in a town that was still under control of the Russian Empire, the Germans, the Poles, and within his town alone, they spoke about 4 different languages, and nobody wanted to talk to each other. So this man sat down and over the course of 10 years created a language using all of the common elements of the major world languages and combined it into one, and Esperanto was born. The way that I explain it is if French, Polish, German, and Spanish all had one big love dialect child, right? So getting back into it, I speak this language because, again, I am a nerd. And the Esperanto community, if you know anything about them, there's not a lot of modern music inside this community whatsoever. You can look up Esperanto music on YouTube, and for one, you're going to find me. But aside from me, you're going to find hours of folk music and old acoustic, and there's even, I think, a loop on YouTube. It's like 10 hours of Esperanto communist music from the early 1900s. And I'm sitting here writing one night. I was talking to Sean. We were working on a project, and I was like, you know what? Nobody that I've ever seen has done this. Nobody has ever made modern music in this linguistic minority. I speak this language. I'm a huge nerd. Why don't I give it a shot? So, we found the beat, we wrote to it. Sean featured on this one, and it turned out great. I mean, honestly, even if you don't speak the language, I think it's a great song. It's got a nice beat to it. And after we recorded it, I posted it to YouTube, and I utilized Reddit and Discord. And Sean, I think I sent you the Reddit post from when we first posted it, if you want to take over here in just a second.
You did, yeah. I'll go ahead and share my screen.
So, do you want me to, or do you want to take over?
I'll just share it, and then you can jump back onto yours. But this is the post, and just so everyone knows, I believe you actually posted the track in Discord first, and then you told everyone about it here a week later. I'm pointing that out because sometimes this stuff takes patience, right?
Yep.
A week later, you posted about it in the larger audience, which would be the Reddit.
Yep. And I believe it's 30,000 members in just this niche community on Reddit alone.
Let's see.
Not including, the Discord or any other outreach.
Yep, 30,000 members.
Okay. So yeah, it took one post, guys, in this niche community. I spoke the language. I made a song in this language. I looked for that gap in that market, I guess you could say, and I filled it. I did what I could to try to fill that. After we posted it to Reddit, overnight, we actually ended up, and let's see.
You can steal the screen share back, by the way.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't even see it pop up on yours. I don't know if it showed up. Or can you still see my screen or no?
No, they should be able to see my screen here with the Reddit pulled up.
Okay, here.
But yeah, you can steal your
back from you.
Share back.
Okay, there you go. Here, I will take that back from you. this?
Cool.
Okay, perfect. And let's see. Okay. So yeah, after I posted my song to that Reddit, this happened. And this was within a day almost. It happened this very same week. On the left, we have an email that I've translated into English because I know literally nobody else is going to know what Esperanto is. So I don't want you guys Google Translate when we're in the middle of the course, right? This is an independent label based in France that works specifically with Esperanto artists. I didn't even know that there was a record label for this linguistic community until they reached out to me just because they stumbled across my song. He said that he discovered me completely by accident through a music video on YouTube. And I find that interesting because how would my video have launched to the top of his algorithm within that first week? It was because I was getting so many streams and so much support, so many comments just because of that one post on Reddit, right? It was really cool for me to say like, oh, well, this label in France reached out to me because of a song that Sean and I did. Like, this is awesome. And on the right is another email that I got that very same week. This is actually from the North American Esperanto Association. It's called NASC in the language. It's its own acronym. But they actually reached out to Sean and I and wanted us to perform at the National Summer Event for the Esperanto community. So if you guys don't know, there's cultural events that take place all over the world every single year for Esperanto. The big one is the Esperanto World Congress. It's like held in a different country every single year, but there's also a North American Summer Conference, which oddly enough is held in Raleigh. It's actually right down the street from my house every single year before I lived here. But yeah, so we were reached out to and we were asked to perform. So, I mean, something as simple as posting in this niche community was able to get me connected to all these people within a week, which I think is awesome personally. Let's see. I think that was all I had for,
Yeah, and real quick, just so people know, you can stack strategies, right?
Yeah.
Because from my perspective here, I featured with you, and you were targeting a niche audience at the time.
Exactly.
So I know nothing about Esperanto. I don't know anybody in Esperanto.
But now
I didn't even know it existed.
Know your name.
Exactly. I didn't even know it existed. So you and I did a song together, and now this whole community, I could have had a chance to go and perform with you at a national convention off of one song, and I don't even know anything about Esperanto. So you can stack these strategies by looking for artists to do these features with that are in a specific niche. And you could start by either looking for the artists and then looking at their niches, and you can tailor the song that you want to do with that artist to impact that niche, or you can start with the niche and look for artists inside of that niche.
Yeah,
right? You can do both. I would say it's a little bit easier to work with local artists if you start with the artists, finding and then seeing what niches they're targeting in your local area. And then as far as targeting by niche, you're probably going to have to go a little bit more broad geographically.
Yep. But yeah, so with that is my story. That is how I was able to get to where I am as an artist without spending a dime, without posting anything anywhere, uploaded a couple videos to YouTube, and here we are. So
the world is going to be happy that we have recorded this and we're uploading this. And we're uploading this because Primo's the only guy here tonight. So it's great that this is not going to be lost in the ether somewhere, because people are going to be very upset that they did not see this. Because, and I just want to come back to the beginning. I kept stressing it as we were sending the notifications out. But to go from 0 to 17,000 in 3 months, right? In 3 months.
It was kind of insane, honestly.
With $0, you spent nothing.
With nothing at all.
Not only no money, but no time on ads, on content, on promo. And like, these are all strategies that we know those are effective as well, right? I mean, we're gonna have other guests in here teaching about those. I'm gonna be teaching about those. It's not that those strategies are bad, but if you can put the extra effort into doing something like this, dude, this is like a cheat code, man.
Honestly, like I was gonna say, I feel bad sometimes looking at my streams because I'm like, well, Bubba's the one posting all the videos, and I'm just getting the followers for it. So, but yeah, I mean, definitely these are just stuff to think about. And like I said, some of you might be doing this. Well, oh yeah, 100%. So, I mean, I've already told myself here soon, I'm really going to get back onto the, the social media start pushing more content. And then I'm also going to support, the artists that I've been, honored to work with thus far. So
Yeah.
Sweet. Well,
absolutely.
Primo.
Primo, any success story?
Anything from you, man?
I say no, man. I think the only thing for me is like I really like when you said that when you were pushing real heavy on the networking because that's like because I feel like that's what I be doing a lot with the because getting your genuine self and getting all the authentic people and everything. I just feel like that's like when you get like that connection with everyone, it's just like it's kind of different. It's like a different way of you like connecting to people, doing everything else. I was like, I really was liking the way you were saying you're talking about that a lot.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and to talk about like stacking strategies too. I know in our first workshop when we launched, we were talking about how to monetize with live events. And correct me if I'm wrong, but you've been able to network and get connected with not only a ton of college students to be able to get people to your events when you perform and actually support you in your local area, but you were also able to network with people that own or manage or do the booking at different venues so that you could perform, right? And didn't you actually get paid for some of those performances?
Yeah, I actually did. My first ever performance, I actually did get paid. And I just thought because when I was going in just to get myself out there. And I didn't even know I didn't even know I was getting paid for it. I was like, oh, okay. Like, I just thought I had no clue. I just thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's the thing too, because like I don't know how consistent you've been with that, right? But if you consistently do that, that can very easily, if you're putting enough effort into it and doing it frequently enough, that can very easily become a really good side gig for people.
That's it, yeah.
And you can do that also through targeting different niches, right? I feel like a lot of artists, whenever they think about live events, it's like, let me go to the most popular bar in town. And it's like impossible to get booked, right? You can do smaller events, and what's crazy is like for me, and this doesn't just work for music artists, we want to appeal to all types of different creators. If you're a speaker or if you're trying to monetize a skill set, get plugged into your local church network, man. Churches, especially with youth groups, right? And I know some people's musical content won't mesh well with that, right? But if you can get plugged into even a youth group, dude, they pay thousands of dollars sometimes for people that have no following to come in and energize their kids. And so you can only get, I love when you were talking about making sure it's a genuine connection with that niche. If you just take some time to sit and think like, what are things I'm passionate about that haven't connected to my music yet? What are some smaller niches that I could get connected to, things I'm actually passionate about to plug in? Because it's also a great way, not only with the streams, it's not only a great way to grow with the streams, it's also a great way to monetize as well.
Yeah. 100%. And the whole thing with Espereble, it started off as an experiment. I had never recorded anything in Esperanto. And I was like, well, I speak the language and I can sing. So like you said, combining that passion with that music. And then, here we are.
All right. Well, we've rambled a lot. So do either of you have anything else before we close the session down?
Other than that, everything good.
All right. Sweet. Well, we hope this was valuable to everyone who watches it in the future. Well, maybe we'll do some type of because here in the community, right? I know we talked about we want to practice what we preach. So what we're going to be doing is working with, for these workshops, other professionals that are helping music artists. So we, as the Independence Project, are getting exposed to their community of artists as well and bringing people in that way. So I love this actually,
awesome.
Because we kind of would be cheating if we had a ton of artists joining from the studio, right? Which it's good to, we'll talk eventually about using your sphere of influence to get that initial jolt. But sometimes you still end up with like one person on the call, right? So the reason I actually love this is because people are going to be able to see their first live workshop. They didn't like cheat and have all of these artists from the studio because we sent out a campaign to like 1,000 people, right? They didn't start off with like tons of artists. They started with one person and stayed consistent. And they'll see in a couple weeks now when we have hundreds of artists inside of a workshop. And some people think, oh man, it must be easy for you. You have the momentum and everything. And we'll be like, no. You can go back and watch the very first workshop, right? When we only had one artist joining in, right? Which is crazy because of the gold that you were dropping here, Christian. So I
Yeah.
appreciate you hopping on and be willing to contribute. Primo, I appreciate you for being here. Let's keep.
I appreciate you
crushing
guys having me too. This is a lot of fun, honestly. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I like it.
All right. Well, to everybody that's going to watch this, peace. Tune in for our next weekly live workshop. It's every Thursday at 7 p.m. We're going to have guests like this on all the time because we want to show you real results, real numbers, real people that you'll actually get to engage with one-on-one. So we'll do that every single week at 7 p.m. And the best way to keep track of that and see what's going on, who's going to be the guest, is to join the school community. We post those links every single week inside of the school community with all of the details, who the guest is going to be. And what we talked about today, we actually posted 2 in-depth courses on these concepts, right? One for business and monetization we do every Sunday, and one every single Tuesday we do for marketing, where we dove into these same marketing strategies. So you'll be able to have access to all of that information as well as the weekly live workshops. So we hope to see you in the school community and in the next live workshop, and we will see you all then.
All right.